Hi, everybody. Welcome to Inside the Texans here at KPRC2 as we put a wrap and talk about what went down on Sunday there in Indianapolis against the Colts, 29-27 win. Randy McAvoy, Chancellor Johnson, Cody Stoops from HOUfootball.com, and Brandon Scott from Sports Radio 610. And my microphone is already, thank goodness, guys, this is a stream show, wherever it is.
It's all good. Even though Randy is having some malfunctions right now, the Houston Texans did it on the road yesterday, getting a win in their season opener against the Indianapolis Colts.
What a performance. What a way to start the season, too, because you finish it up last year, you finish the Colts off, and then 8 months later, you're back in the building, and it's still a big one for the Texans.
Yeah, 100%. And not only that, though, and I know we'll get into this, just how different of a styles make fights, right? And how different of a style victory this was really interesting to watch. I assumed it was just going to be gunslinging. It would be, receivers going for 100 yards and, a couple of 100 to 300 yards for the quarterbacks. But this ended up being a ground and pound game for the Texans and not so much for the Indianapolis Colts.
When's the last time that you could say that about a Houston Texans team, that they controlled the game through the ground?
Yeah, I mean, you probably pointed to Damian Pierce 2 years ago, but that was just such a lost year.
They didn't have another option at the time.
Yes. I mean, last decade, Been a while. Yeah.
You saw some of the plays right there, especially down in the fourth quarter. You had that second touchdown from C.J. Stroud to Stephon Diggs as well. It was, 15-13 game going to the fourth quarter, right?
Well, they should have, this thing got too close a couple times. And that's what I think you learn about this team is they're a good team. Great teams keep that team at arm's length and it never gets close. And they're going to be a great team by the end of the year. But they're really good right now, which allows them to overcome some of those issues. Block punt, Jonathan Taylor's running in for a touchdown moments later, and you still take care of your business and get a win. And the stat was, 90% of the time you block a punt, you win the football game. Well, welcome to the 10%, Indianapolis.
Well, and it's impossible to predict how the rest of the season is going to go, the rest of the regular season. But I would say for Texans fans to put a pin in this game for when the postseason does come. If and when the Texans are in the playoffs, and this is the type of football game that you want to see them play later on in the season when rubber meets the road and you have to run the football, when it's cold, when you're in adverse conditions and you're facing a dynamic front like what the Colts have. This is the type of game or the type of style that'll win a playoff game.
When you want to keep, Patrick Mahomes off the field.
Well, Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
Well, to me, when I look back on this game, now they've set the standard. Now we know what the Houston Texans are capable of. They're capable of going on the ground, getting it done, ground and pound, and they still had success through the air, which was nice to see. So it was really complimentary football all the way throughout. But now it won't be 150 yards per game, but now they have shown the ability to run the ball.
I was going to say, they did it against the Indianapolis Colts, and all the buzz there in Indy yesterday was, man, our run defense kind of shaky. They kind of felt that going in, and it was on display again.
That's a really good front seven.
It is.
They did that against, too. Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, they got some guys at the ends they like. And then that linebacker duo, Zaire Franklin, E.J. Speed.
We talked a lot over the offseason.
So much from them in the offseason. And then Joe Mixon and his 5 big ugly buddies up there on the offensive line went out there and just punched them in the mouth, and then they punched them in the mouth again.
But see, that's why I think it's glass half full for the Texans as opposed to glass half empty for the Colts, because that front is dynamic the way that we expect them to be. The Texans just went out there and handled business.
They went over 200 yards on the ground for sure. Listen to a little bit of D'Amico Ryans after the win yesterday.
Yeah, it starts with our offensive line. The way they controlled the line of scrimmage was awesome, right? And then Joe, he stepped up big time for us. Well, we needed him to run the ball. He did. They knew it was run. We knew it was run, and he still made the play. So, man, just excited to have him on our side. We've seen it all training camp, and it was exciting to see him do it here his first game. Yeah, it opens everything up, right? When you can run the ball, it opens everything up. When it comes to the passing game, I think guys they got to put 8 in the box, right? So now you have a lot of single coverage on the outside, and, that's where Nico, Tank, Diggs, they can make their plays. Yeah, CJ, he made a lot of good plays for us. He was pressured a lot, but he still moved around and made plays. Escaped the pocket. The plays on the move were really exciting plays to see. Made plays when we had to, but not good enough, right? Got to eliminate the big plays. That's when you give up points. When you give up the big plays, that equal points. So overall, we had some good spurts there, good on third down, but just the last one just cannot happen. Yeah, Kamari did his job. Caitlin did what he done every day in training camp. He went and took the football. So, I'm very excited, very pleased with what those two rookies have done for us, and also Brooks stepping in, making a big tackle on the kickoff. So.
All right, D'Amico Ryans after the victory. The voice, not much there yesterday. He walked into the interview and said, "We got to keep this short, guys. I got nothing here." But anyway, handed out praises across the board, as he should after a victory like that.
Yeah, he noted the C.J. Stroud mobility. The great ones in the NFL right now can do that drift, and they drift, and they drift, and they drift. Oh, there's Nico Collins, third down completion.
That was huge.
I mean, they're just so good at maneuvering through some of that pressure, because there was, look, run blocking, real good. Pass blocking,
it was questionable.
What, 4 sacks yesterday?
Well, yeah, and a theme, it feels like, for the Texans at Indianapolis is going to be C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins torturing that Colts defense with the scramble drill. But to your point, and we've all kind of hit on this, dynamic in run blocking, but the pass protection was especially leaky, which, again, not what you're expecting. You're expecting this offensive line to be really good in pass protection, and the question was about, hey, how are they going to scheme up the run game? What's the offensive line going to look like in the run game? They were the exact opposite of that. Felt good in the run game, but you want to see them be better in protecting C.J. Stroud.
Let's roll some video if we can. Let's continue to talk about the day C.J. had, again, starting his second season with the Texans. We got a few shots of C.J. here. Just the way he handles things, just as advertised.
Yeah, I want to go back to what Brandon just mentioned real quick, because you do have to give the Colts front seven some credit. As we talked about earlier, this is still a talented group, so they are going to get after the quarterback, but of course you want to keep seven upright as much as possible. But it's interesting following this game. It seemed like more of the conversation between the two quarterbacks coming out of this was more so on Anthony Richardson. Yet he was outplayed by C.J. Stroud. The numbers show you that, the film shows you that, and then at the end of the day, the Houston Texans, they ended up getting the win. This, to me, was a more pedestrian day for C.J. Stroud. It wasn't like a ton of splash plays, but still, he got it done when he needed it, and he was still very efficient on the day overall, leading the Houston Texans to yet another win.
Kind of a boring day.
Absolutely.
I'm going to appreciate that. The fantasy football people will tell you, hey, Anthony Richardson scored more points. You know who scored more points on the real scoreboard? C.J. Stroud.
That's right.
Because he takes care of it. He makes some really hard stuff look so easy. And the inverse, Chancellor, Anthony Richardson makes some easy stuff look really, really hard.
Yep.
And Stroud, man, he's just, it's.
Well, Stroud, Nico got a lot, as he should, the catch he made there on that 3rd and 11. I mean, the throw was unbelievable there from CJ to get it there.
Well, see, so the thing is, we already know what CJ has to offer. We already know that he can take over a game, or that he can win you the game with 40-something seconds left, or whatever the case may be, whatever the situation calls for. We know that CJ can handle it. I think that's why Cody's saying, hey, I can appreciate or live with a boring CJ game, because he's given us all of those other things. What we didn't know about the Texans, what the big question was for the Texans, was could they run the football and not get a ball back to the other team at the end of the game? And that's what they showed you in this game. Now, as far as protection goes, you like to see them run block, but C.J. Stroud's still the quarterback, and it's still important. Even if you're not going to win the game through the air, it's still important to protect your quarterback, and so they got to get that right.
Listen in, let's a little bit of conversation with C.J. Stroud after the win.
We definitely did have a ton of great things, but we definitely have some things to work on. But I mean, this is week one. Everybody's rusty. Everybody's rusty. I'm not going to name any names. But, yeah, so, I mean, I just think, like, if you can come out week one and get a dub against a divisional opponent, it's huge. You know what I mean? So I think everybody played well on offense. You know, we got to stop shooting ourselves in the foot, and we'll keep rolling, man. I think this offense is just getting started. Definitely when you can impose your will running the ball, you open up a whole multitude of type of players for Bobby to call, and honestly we just kept going to it, and I think it was working. And I think this is a testament that, like, you can see everybody had numbers today. You know, maybe not everybody, it was skewed in other ways, but you know, everybody touched the ball. We try to call plays for guys, you know what I mean, for everybody to have opportunity to get it. And I think whenever you get those guys the ball, like, they make plays happen. So for me, I just got to get them the ball as best as I can and not force anything, and just really, you know, understand that those guys are going to make me look good. Kind of like the saying, you know, that's a privilege for everybody to, you know, have those expectations for us, because they're there for a reason. There's a ton of special guys on this team, and there's no there's no real reward. I feel like if there is no pressure, you know what I mean. Like you want to kind of have your back against the wall, and we have that big red target on our back, and that's something we didn't have last year. Something I'm kind of used to being from Ohio State. But I definitely do think, that saying is kind of what this team is about. Like, we love that pressure. We want that pressure. There's so many leaders on this offense, and I honestly didn't say much because I didn't really have to. Joe and Steph and, Juice, there's a ton of guys who were like, man.
All right, that was some of C.J. Stroud after the victory yesterday. And again, he found many, I don't know what his final count was, how many guys he hooked up with, 6 or 7 guys, but he definitely spread it around. Hey, real quick, we want to hear from our viewers out there that are checking it out here on KPRC 2+. How would you grade C.J. Stroud's performance? A+, A minus, B+? What's your report card? Head on over to click2vote.com. That's click2vote.com. You can weigh in and cast your vote right there. But I know you had a comment on CJ.
Yeah, absolutely. He talked about not getting complacent, and it was important to know. It's interesting, when you win the ball game, it's a lot easier to ignore some of the pass protection that wasn't right. It's a lot easier to ignore the fact they had a blocked punt within their own end zone that directly led to a touchdown. It's easy to ignore Laramie Tunsil, who is still one of the best left tackles in the league, cost them earlier on with 2 false starts in the first half. So some of the mistakes that they made, it's easier to kind of move past that in a win, but it's something that has to be corrected if they want to be the team that they hope to be at the end of the season.
A lot easier to watch those back after you get a win.
For sure.
A lot easier to point those out. The 4 sacks, 3 of them came on 3rd down. The false starts, 2 of them came on 3rd down. You can't ruin that money down. And Kenyon Green, CJ bailed him out there at the end. You come out of a timeout and false start, that can't happen.
Yeah.
But then, CJ, he saved everybody. Nice little pass to Nico over on the sideline.
I do want to say, though, on the topic of Kenyon Green, he actually was very, very good in the run game. For all the flack that he's taken over the past couple of years for not being able to stay healthy and be on the field, when you look at those highlights of Joe Mixon going crazy, going for over 150 yards, you can see a big number 76 making his way to the second level of the defense and causing havoc for that Colts defense.
Let's segue to a little bit of Joe Mixon, guys. That was obviously a huge storyline. We're going to watch the plays here. Finished with 159 yards on 30 carries. What a breakout day. Great job by Mixon. Great job by that O-line.
104 yards in the second half, B. Scott?
Yeah.
Take that all the time.
So I've been saying this since camp, since I first laid eyes on Joe Mixon in person. Fans are going to be so impressed by how big and physical of a runner this guy is. It stands out. You can watch him on TV and it's one thing, but if you got to go out to training camp, if you're one of the fans that got to see that, or obviously us when we're at the games and at the practices, this guy he's just a different type of player than the type of running back that they've had. That manifested itself on top of the fact of what the offensive line was doing, as Chance was mentioning, with Kenyon Green, especially the interior of that line. Man, they are in for a treat. It's a different style of team now.
This is the first game that we saw Joe Mixon in the Houston Texans jersey, but I would have thought he was within the division before this year with the way he was running over Indianapolis Colts defenders like he had beef with them.
It felt personal, didn't it?
It felt very personal. He ran violently, and he made cuts when he had to. He found open space. He showed a little bit of that explosiveness. Once again, they've now set the standard. I know it's week 1 and every game won't be for 150 yards, but they've proven that they can run the ball with Joe Mixon in the backfield.
And if that dang turf was in better shape, he probably had 3-4 more big runs. I mean,
he said that after the game. He left some out there.
How many times did you watch Joe Mixon? You're thinking to yourself, "Ooh, one more cut, one more little extra block, one more second here or there," and he had maybe a house call. It'd have been Dr. Mixon. He'd make it.
Joe Mixon met with the media in the interview room at the podium. Here's a little bit of what he had to say.
We was running downhill, sideways, downhill, doing whatever we need to do to, crease them and make the most of the runs. But, man, shout out to the fullbacks, tight ends, and O-line and receivers, that was blocking, man. Without them, it wouldn't be possible. And I'm just, finally really getting tapped into, the player that I know I am for real. And the guys is encouraging and doing everything, man, to make sure this thing is still up and going. And I'm just glad, man, that I'm probably one of the forefront person to really set the tone and let people know, what it is, playing us. And you got guys like Neek out there making
huge plays, and CJ being CJ, and Steph coming in and making crazy plays, even Tank. And everybody just complimenting each other, the run complimenting the pass, and the pass complimenting the run, man. So we got a hell of a thing that we got going. We just got to keep getting better each and every week. You know, really about will and want to. I mean, the O-line all week, man, it was just saying, like, hey, man, we got to make this thing shake. We got to make it shake. And I'm like, man, let's go get 150. Let's go get 150 started off. And, hey, we got 159. And, you know, we just got to keep getting better, keep building.
All right, Joe Mixon, happy camper. Again, 159 yards on the ground, 30 carries. And Cody mentioned, I think 21 carries, 104 yards in the second half alone to get to that point. What a day in that backfield, and great job by that O-line. All right, another Click2Vote for you to check out on click2vote.com. We want you to weigh in on Joe Mixon's debut.
Wait a minute. Randy,
right there.
there is 9% of people.
Thumbs up or thumbs down?
There is 9% of people who have thumbs down.
God,
You
what's
just
going on with
First
that?
of all, Joe Mixon had 159 yards from the ground, which would have been good enough
There
for.
should be one option.
There's one option. He would have had the record for most rushing yards by a Texans player last year. Who are the 9% that's having a thumbs down? That makes zero sense.
Come on, people.
You got to have the dissenting votes, man. It's not a democracy if you don't, man. We cannot have full consensus in this thing. Now, they're on the wrong side of history. Don't get me wrong, but hey, you're free to be there.
This is why maybe everybody shouldn't vote. But you know, we don't even talk about that.
Hey, we're going to take a 60-second break as we continue on Inside the Texans as we talk about the big win over the Indianapolis Colts and get you ready for week number 2.
9%. Man.
Sunday night against the Bears.
Kidding me.
We'll be right back. All right, we're back live here at KPRC2 Inside the Texans. Randy McAvoy, Chancellor Johnson, Cody Stutes from HOUfootball.com. Make sure you check out his website and his show on YouTube as well. And Brandon Scott from Sports Radio 610. We continue on to the bottom of the hour now. In a few minutes, Chancellor and Cody are going to scoot out. But that's the beauty of stream shows. They can do that, and it's okay. They got to get on over to NRG Stadium. But let's get into Stefon Diggs and his day, guys. 6 targets, 6 catches for Stefon Diggs and a couple of touchdowns.
That's what you bring him here for, right? I mean, if you could have told me, hey, who's going to have the first touchdown of the season for the Texans, Stefon Diggs was going to be my answer, and he was fantastic. And there's going to be some days where he's going to be, light in the yards but heavy on the scores, and I think he'll be just fine with that.
I think about this with both Stefon Diggs, the 2 big newcomers who had big performances yesterday, Stefon Diggs and Joe Mixon. And one of the things that the Texans brass talked about wanting to be better at, from Nick Caserio to DeMeco Ryans and CJ Stroud, 3rd and 4th down. And now this is going to be beautiful between having old reliable and Stefon Diggs from a pass catching standpoint. And we've already talked about what Joe Mixon has to offer in the run game. Those are 2 answers, 2 solutions to their issues of being a middling team on 3rd down. Now they can be elite at it because of those 2 players.
When the Houston Texans signed, when they brought over Stefon Diggs, the big question was for the opposing defenses is how were you going to stop this trio? And of course, we didn't even talk about Joe Mixon or Dalton Schultz initially at the time. And we saw some of the problems that they were able to create. We saw Tank Dell being able to create some explosive plays and get the ball in his hands. With Stefon Diggs, the problems that you mentioned as far as that he was able to create for the defenses, being able to help them convert on 3rd and 4th down. We haven't even touched yet Nico Collins, who continued to kill Indy in their own building, who went on for 6 catches for 117 yards. Once again, the story of the day was the ground game, but we saw how it was able to work through the air as well. Real
quick, let's listen, if we can, for about a minute with Stefon Diggs after the game in the locker room.
I'm happy to get that first dub. It's nothing like opening the season with a dub. I'm really looking forward to getting back in the lab, seeing what we did wrong. Felt like we played a little sloppy. We better as an offense, and I was just happy for the guys. Obviously Joe Mixon is all world. Nico Collins playing all world. Even Tank doing his job. They show you that we've really got that kind of like offense. It can go anywhere. You know what I'm saying? The guys playing at a high level across the board. It's a recipe for success, especially from the offensive position. But I think it was a lot more meat on the bone. Pause. But back to work we go. That wide receiver core that we got is special. With that guy in the backfield is special as well. You know what I'm saying? He can crease at any time. He breaks tackles. And in my opinion, he got a lot more in the tank. You know what I'm saying? He missed a little bit of camp, so I think he's getting his legs back. But he's all world, and I think you're going to see a heavy dosage of Joe Mixon. You crawl up, you know what you're going to get. But you know what I'm saying? You play too high, you play shell coverage, we're going to do a little bit of blocking, and he's going to make plays. No, he's way better.
All right, that was Stephon Diggs. He's a meat on the bone still, and he loves this wide receiver core. He was a happy guy after that win.
Well, you know how many 1,000-yard receivers he played with in Buffalo? Is zero.
Zero, yeah.
Okay, he's got two guys that could probably go for 1,000 there with him, and Tank Dell, Nico Collins. It's got to be a great team.
And I think he went over 10,000 for his career.
He
Too.
Very
First catch.
First catch put him over. That's right.
Yeah.
He's got a pretty good list of goals. He's got his eyes set on goals for this season, long-term goals, things like that. I'm really excited what Stephon Diggs can bring this season. And I mean, 2 touchdowns, what better debut can you have?
We got about 2 minutes with you guys before y'all have to scoot to NRG Stadium. Let's roll real quick just to dive into Nico Collins coming off of Stephon Diggs and the job he did. We got some video as well. Nico, I believe, 6 catches, I believe, 117 yards. There's his numbers right there. Just a go-to guy, made a couple of really nice catches, especially that 3rd and 11 late in the game to seal it.
Oh, man, he had 3 critical plays. Like 3 of those 6 catches are game changers, and 2 of them are wow plays or like highlight catches. There's an image, too, like there's a still shot of him like catching the ball over like 2 different defenders. I mean, Nico Collins and what he's developed into over these last couple of years is really a testament to hard work, to development, to coaching, to dedication. I mean, I cannot say enough about Nico Collins and what he's become. And now, like in Indianapolis, hey, in Lucas Oil Stadium, they hate to see a Nico Collins coming. I can tell you that. They sure hate to. I'm telling you, they hate to see a Nico Collins coming.
Cody mentioned earlier that the game got a little bit too close for comfort, but give the Houston Texans credit that they continue to respond every time that the Colts made a push, and a big reason for that was Nico Collins. Think about that 3rd and 11, and who did C.J. Stroud go to? It wasn't Stephon Diggs, it wasn't Tank Dell, it was to Nico Collins. He had a laser on the sidelines, and give Nico Collins credit for coming up with that big catch. I'm really excited to see what they can continue to do as a trio.
1 knee greater than 2 feet. He gets the catch, gets the 1 knee down, and then he's out of bounds. Like you could not have painted that or written that any better for him to get the 11 yards plus 1. Like they needed that in the worst way.
Cody, final thoughts on Nico?
He's probably the best wide receiver on the team. I know Diggs scored.
I thought the same thing.
But I mean, just the size, speed, combination. He's in sync with C.J. Stroud. He's the best wide receiver on the team.
All right, you guys have to head on over to NRG Stadium because it's a locker room, or actually podium today with some players. So we're going to let y'all scoot out.
Oh, you're too kind.
It's a stream show. We're pretty flexible.
It's already over?
It's over, but we're going to have you back on, though.
All right, okay,
we're going to have you back on. We're going to listen in right now as you guys head out. Brandon, stick around last couple of minutes. I caught up with Nico at his locker last night. All right, here inside the Texans locker room after a big win to open the season with Nico Collins. How sweet is the feeling, the first one, 1-0, moving forward now?
Definitely. It's an amazing feeling. You want to open up the season with 1-0, and that's what we did. We came out on the road. It's hard, back against the wall, but we came out and handled business. Every quarter, we know it wasn't going to be easy, but I feel like it came down to who wanted more, and I feel like that's what we did, every play.
You got some big catches. How about that one down the stretch to kind of seal that win? That was a great catch.
Big time, man. It was 3rd down. It was money down. You know what time it is? 3rd and 6. We got to move the sticks. And DB had great leverage. But I feel like for me, man, just make a play. I feel like we wanted more. But you got 7 at quarterback. Dude can make any throw. So I knew when I came on my break, the ball was gonna be there. I had to go make a play for the squad, and that's what I did.
Lastly, that offensive line. How fun was it to watch that running game, take care of business? And Joe's big day.
It's amazing, man. And Joe, he's special. He's been knowing that dude making plays in the league for a long time, and I feel like that dude, he got it. And I feel like for us, we got to continue to make the right drops for him to go out there and just shine. When the ball in his hand, he'll play maker. And so I feel like for him, man, just continue to go, and I feel like just continue to block out right of silence from him. He do the rest.
Got it done today. Hey, great game.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations on the win. Nico Collins. Texas get the win here in Indianapolis. Back to you guys. All right, that, of course, aired last night on Sports Sunday. Good to just chat with him, man. He was on cloud 9. He knows the catches he made. I brought it up, and he said, man, I admit that was a good catch.
Yeah, and the confidence you could see there. Like, really, there are some holes to pick apart in this in this game, some elements that the Texans didn't necessarily do well. But the main parts here on critical downs, got to have it type of plays, explosive plays. They had those. The running game we mentioned earlier with Joe Mixon, they were able to establish the run throughout the game, early on and in the game with Joe Mixon for the most part running the ball. And then you sprinkle in there the plays that Stephon Diggs makes, the critical plays. I mentioned those earlier. And then, of course, that there at the end with Nico Collins on 3rd and 11 getting 12 yards. Man, you just cannot say enough about what they did there.
We got a couple minutes, but one thing we didn't touch on with Cody and Chancellor, too, and just real quick, there are some things they've got to clean up defensively. The explosive plays that the Colts had, they've got to make sure that's not going to be an ongoing issue. They got to clean that up.
Yeah, the bright side was that they were able to keep Jonathan Taylor in check for the most part. Now, I know Anthony.
I think he averaged, 3 yards a carry?
Oh, man, he was essentially a non-factor.
48 yards, I believe?
Yeah, no, he was a non-factor. If you had to guess based off of prior performance, and I know it's a new team.
He's like Nico, but for them, he always does damage against the Texans.
Exactly. Kind of like how it looked like he was going to be the new Derrick Henry. You know how Derrick Henry would go for a career day every time against the Texans. And that was a theme for the Texans defense for years now. It seemed like they were leaky in run defense, but they were good in that element or in that area yesterday, but they gave up far too many explosive plays. Now, I think that had to do with Anthony Richardson showing some ability that you just can't teach. We were talking about Nico Collins having a little bit of that from the wide receiver room. Mm-hmm. He's got some things you can't teach. Anthony Richardson's got a lot of that, of things that you can't teach, but some of the stuff that you can teach, some of the easier stuff, he's not as good at. The Texans got to be better at not giving up as many explosive plays, but overall, a really good performance by them.
All right, I think we've got, hopefully got a graphic, I believe, promoting week number 2. If we do, we'll pop that up. Yes, there it is. Sunday Night Football. You ready for it? It's going to be fun, man. Chicago Bears coming to town on Sunday. It's pretty cool, a big day for us here at KPRC 2. We've got the game on NBC, obviously. We've got a live pregame, 5:30 to 6, but we have our news at 5, so we're basically going 5 to 6, to be honest with you. It all leads to NBC's pregame, and then the kickoff, 7:15. Sunday Night Football. I think it's their first Sunday night game in, 5 years maybe? It's been a while.
Oh, it's definitely been a while.
5-6 years ago.
But look, shout out to the Titans, or to the Bears actually, for taking care of business against the Titans. Hopefully it's a different result for the Texans coming up this Sunday.
Hey, we ought to mention this. Don't forget to sign up for our Texans newsletter. You could do that as well. We've been doing that for a couple of years now. It's delivered every week from the KPRC2 sports team. I write it some weeks. Chancellor, Ari, we all contribute. Aaron Wilson contributes as well. So check it out for your Texans newsletter straight to your inbox each and every week. You'll find the link to subscribe. You can pull that and take care of that on click2houston.com/newsletter. So that's going to do it for Inside the Texans, talking about the win over the Colts. For Brandon Scott, Cody Stoops, Chancellor Johnson, so long for now. We'll do it again next Monday.